You must have heard this. I don't know if you hear this in your circles, but people are saying this has been litigated. You had an impeachment. It was determined. It's done. It's over. We need to move on as a country. We need to unite as a country. But in fact, tonight, Kari Lake in Arizona continues to lie about the election. Donald Trump continues to lie about the election. And in truth, no one has faced the consequences about lying about this election and undermining democracy.
Well, the political scientists will tell you that the single biggest predictor of a coup coming is a recently failed coup, where the coup plotters are able to determine what are the weaknesses in the current regime that they can exploit next time, and what mistakes they made that they can correct in order to orchestrate a similar attack in the future. And it's also the case from very clear historical studies that when an insurrection takes place, an attempted coup takes place, and there is not a complete, full accounting of what took place in a repudiation of the coup, that gives greater impetus to the coup plotters to go out and do it again. So this is a critical issue when you've got Donald Trump's followers running around the country saying either Antifa did it, or it didn't really happen, or it's been overblown, or it was all a government plot. And, that's why it's great that people are standing up across the board to challenge the big lie and all of the other lies, the medium-sized lies and the little lies that follow in its train.
I want to just play for you what Kari Lake said tonight. She's in Iowa. Here's what she, of course, ran for governor unsuccessfully in Arizona, a former journalist. Here's what she's got to say about the election.
Our case is moving forward. I know the fake news, some of them here today, have said our case is done, the judges are ruling against us. Our case is moving forward. We are not going to stop with our case. We have the evidence on our side.
Now, a little hard to hear because she was facing away, so I want to tell our viewers what she said. Our case is moving forward. I know the fake news, some of them are here today, have said that our case is done. The judges are ruling against us. Our case is moving forward. We're not going to stop with our cases. We have the evidence on our side. What do you do about stuff like this? She lost her election. All the cases have been lost, but now they have the judges on their side. The judges are ruling against us. It's this conspiracy theory that people do buy into.
Well, that's all about political leaders like Donald Trump or George Santos trying to maintain a stranglehold over the Republican Party, because I think the vast majority of the American people see that for exactly what it is. More than 60 federal and state courts rejected every single allegation of electoral corruption or electoral fraud in the 2020 contest. And Donald Trump knew that, and his own Attorney General, William Barr, told him that his claims were BS, and Vice President Pence told him that it was nonsense and there were no grounds for Pence to step outside of his constitutional role and just declare Donald Trump the winner. In other words, the fact-based world, including some Republicans, have completely repudiated the big lie and the big lies about the insurrection and so on. What we're seeing with the continuing mendacity and duplicity among politicians like Lake and like Donald Trump is simply an attempt to maintain control over the Republican Party, which they, of course, have reduced to an authoritarian cult, a political religious cult where they accept as gospel whatever the cult leaders tell them to believe in. And, this is propaganda understood as a form of magic that the people perpetrating don't believe in, but the people who receive it still do.
So this is legally important if the people perpetrating it do not believe in it. In fact, Jack Smith seems to be honing in on the people around Donald Trump, including Jared Kushner, to try and determine and as close as possible under oath and in Donald Trump's words, what he believed to be true after that election. Whether he believed he had won the election or he believed he had not won the election and was perpetrating a big lie. The evidence seems to point to the fact that he knew that he had lost the election and was being egged on by a few people to carry on lying about the whole thing. But that is legally very, very important, is it not?
It is. I mean, if you look at the criminal offenses that the January 6th committee referred to the Department of Justice, there were 4 of them. And the element of a corrupt intent runs throughout a number of them. So there is a deliberate and corrupt interference with a federal proceeding, which undoubtedly the peaceful transfer of power on January the 6th was. There's no doubt that he conspired to obstruct and interfere with the proceeding, telling people to go in and fight like hell. And of course, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what needed to be done, and they were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," and so on. The question is, was it a corrupt interference, or did he really believe that the election was being stolen from him? Did he understand that Joe Biden had beaten him by 7 million votes? Did he understand that he had lost badly in the Electoral College by the exact same margin he had defeated Hillary Clinton by 4 years prior? And it seems from lots of testimony we got in the January 6th committee that he knew precisely that he had lost the election. As Cassidy Hutchinson quoted him saying to someone else, "Can you believe I lost to this guy?" And other statements like that, which clearly indicated his consciousness of defeat. And yet that was privately, and that was in discussing strategically what to do. But when he went out before the MAGA masses, he played the victim and pretended as if he had won the election in order to continue to incite and galvanize the mob.